Hello everybody, how you doing? I hope you're safe, I hope you're well, and I hope whatever you're doing this weekend, probably not a great deal, I should imagine. I hope it sees you in good spirits. Now, today we are looking at Now 18. This is the second of only two albums from 1990. For some reason, they decided to go back to the two per year, having done three a year. This is an interesting volume. It covers a lot of ground, which we'll go through. It starts with this one, which is a very strange number one. It's a Beautiful South. And I'm trying to think of a House Martins. Yeah, of course, Caravan of Love. And of course, Norman Cook had a number one with Dub Be Good To Me just earlier in the year. So time for Paul Heaton and the Crew. I think I made a mistake in my one about You Keep It All In on Now 16, because I don't think it was Paul singing, and I said that was Paul singing with Brianna, and it wasn't, I don't think. I think it's Dave Hemingway, and ditto this one. Dave Hemingway doing a duet with Brianna Corrigan, and yeah, it made number one. Very, very out of character for a number one song. I don't think I had any idea when they recorded this how well it would do. I don't really know why it did so well, other than it just kind of sneaked through a gap in the charts at the time. But it's a very well crafted song. It's one of the Beautiful South's better songs, and it's kind of a worthy number one, really. Certainly an interesting way to start the album. As always, and I've said this again and again, it's not that reflective of the rest of the album. The first song's always a bit of an outlier. Now, second up, we've got an old song that was re-released. I think this one made number one again, or maybe number two. It was the Steve Miller Band and the Joker, and it was another song used in a Levi's advert, I think, or a beer ad. Kind of a classic song, kind of bluesy rock. And Steve Miller had sort of long disappeared. This song just came out of nowhere and put him back up in the charts again. Followed by Sacrifice by Elton. Now, we're really not at the cutting edge with these first three songs, are we? It's 1990 and there's all sorts of hip-hop and house, and we're doing Elton John songs, which is okay because he's still around and he's outlived a lot of the people. I mean, who else is still going 30 years later? So, fair play, Elton. Number one was Sacrifice. Bit of a dreary song. It's kind of very adult and very mature. But it's not one of his most exciting songs. Next up, we've got another big song. Again, it's probably not really one that I personally really like, but I totally, just wait till you get these stats. I totally respect the popularity of this one. Let me just tell you and you probably know what it is from that drum intro. This has had 500 million views, 468, 980, 607. 468 million views. That's what I call popular. It was in the movie Pretty Woman, which was a big film from the year, and a lot of songs made the charts. It's rock set on the more down-tempo thing. I remember once doing a wedding disco and they wanted their first song to be this. It must have been Love, but it's over now. What can you say, really? It's just a great big ballad. And it's hugely popular. It really resonates with a lot of people. Follow this one with Phil Collins. Again. God, if I had a penny for every time he'd made a Now album, I'd be a millionaire. Something Happened on the Way to Heaven is Phil in kind of more upbeat mode. Slightly more 90s in sound, but it's still the old Phil Collins sound, really. It's a bit meh. It's okay, but it's not one of his best. Right, we follow this one up with Wilson Phillips, and hold on. Wilson Phillips, now let me get this right. They were the offspring, if you like. It's a weird sounding word for people. But they were the offspring of... Was it Brian Wilson? Wow. The daughters of Brian Wilson, and who is the Wilson side of things, and John and Michelle Phillips, which is of the Mamas and Papas. So they were basically three girls who were the daughters of 60s kind of hippie-ish pop stars. And hold on, pretty good song, quite AOR, very American sounding, very kind of West Coast, but with a pedigree like that, Californian girls, California dreaming and all that. what do you expect? Something that sounds like it was recorded in Bolton. So yeah, that's that. Now, Sinead is back with Nothing Compares to You, and this was another number one. There's been an awful lot of number ones on this side so far. Another ballad, Prince song, really well known. Should we stick it on? I'd say this song's also had like loads and loads of views, and I think this one kind of opened her up to a much bigger audience than Mandinka, which was still fairly indie. And yeah, nice and emotional. She cries in the video. You almost don't want to talk over it. It just feels a bit disrespectful, bantering on about whatever's next while this is playing. But hey, that's where we are. That's what we're doing. Go out and listen to it if you want to hear it without me yakking away over it. Another old song, another cover, another number one, and a re-release of a cover, because actually I don't. The Righteous Brothers, did they do the original Unchained Melody? This was in Ghost. It's another kind of wedding disco classic at the end of the night. Almost the last song you'd play. I'm just interested to see who actually did the original version of it. Was it the Righteous Brothers? Yeah, I think it was actually. All sorts of people have done it. There's been millions and millions of covers. It's a very old 55. So no, it wasn't actually the original by... I was trying to see who did the first version of it. It was from a film called Unchained, and the one in the film was sung by someone called Todd Duncan. So yeah, it's not a Righteous Brothers original, but they've done the most famous version of it. It's kind of a classic, isn't it? Was it Phil Spector production? Let me just check. I want to find that out. Yep, Phil Spector. So Phil Spector and the Righteous Brothers, going a big OTT 60s ballad. Right, number 9, Belinda's back again with We Want the Same Thing. Very much Belinda. I've liked all her upbeat songs. She just knocked out really, really good songs. Whoever wrote her songs, I don't know if it was her or not, but they knew how to come up with really good songs. We Want the Same Thing's got a great chorus, very catchy. I don't think it's that well known anymore. I think Heaven Is a Place on Earth's probably swept up the limelight for all her songs, but it's still good. We'll follow that with Anniversary Waltz Part 1. God, Status Quo, in which Status Quo go Jive Bunny, and they basically do a medley of loads of rock and roll songs in their own inimitable style. You know what it sounds like just from that description. And it even includes, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a bit of The Wanderer, which they'd already done as a full song. So it's kind of Jive Bunny done by Status Quo. Another good wedding disco. This is a very good wedding disco album, this. Next up, we've got Suicide Blonde by In Excess. I think this song's still really, really popular. Still pretty influential, one of their most famous songs. More on the kind of upbeat, funky rock sound. And that's followed by Don't Ask Me by Public Image Limited. Johnny Lydon's back again. Is this his first time on a Now album? I think it might be. It's probably not one of his most famous songs, but it's a great song. It's quite poppy for him, but it's kind of shouty as well. Very eco in its lyrics, and all the stuff about no more toilet paper. That's probably the most relevant lyric to 2020 on the whole album, on the whole series of Nows. John Rotten knew what was coming 30 years ago. So yeah, that's a really resonant song. Right, It's My Life, Talk. I believe this is a re-release from an old song from the 80s, but it doesn't really sound dated at all. It's kept up with 1990. I don't know why it was re-released. Was it an advert or a greatest hits album or something? But it's very good, actually. It could have been on any Now, from Now 1 to this one. It's the kind of good side of RT 80s pop. Talk, really good. They didn't have that many hits, but their stuff's really, really high quality. Right, another classic, indie classic now, and that's There She Goes by the Lars. Let's stick this one on. This song's one of the biggest indie songs of all time, and it's the only song that the Lars did that was really famous, I think. I think he went off to do the Seahorses, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, There She Goes. It's a kind of jangly indie sound. It's more Liverpool than Manchester, I think. With a name like the Lars, you certainly expect it to be Liverpool. So it's kind of sonically slightly different from the Manchester stuff. It's maybe more like stuff like the Birds, late 60s stuff, rather than the kind of funky stuff. But it certainly overlaps sonically with the kind of Manchester indie. 15 million views, that's pretty respectable. It's not like earth-shattering, but it's good. Okay, this is followed by Tina Turner, Be Tender With Me Baby. Tina's putting out some really strong songs at this point. They're nothing to do with what's going on in the Manchester scene and stuff. The slow, big kind of ballady song. But it's just a great song, actually. I really like it. Impressed. Okay, and in the old hands corner now, we've got Robert Palmer and UB40. That's a rather interesting duet. I'll Be Your Baby Tonight. Actually pretty good for both parties. Another case where the duet brings out the best in them. It is an old cover, done in the UB40 style, and Robert Palmer put some pretty good vocals on it. So it's kind of its time, but it's perfectly acceptable. And that ends record 1. So observations so far, record 1 is actually quite retro. It really doesn't feel very 1990. When you see you've got acts like Phil Collins still there, Elton John, Righteous Brothers, Steve Miller Band, Status Quo, Tina Turner, Robert Palmer, UB40. It really does feel like it's sort of OAP's night. But they're actually pretty good songs. Now, we kick off now with a more dancey sort of side of things. But it's amazing, actually. A lot of these dance songs are more covers or remixes. First up is So Hard by the Pet Shop Boys. All right, the Pet Shop Boys carrying on where they left off. Gone a bit more 90s with this one. Still very much their own kind of thing. Their own sound. Neil Tennant's vocals. Quite kind of techno-y in the music. Not bad, actually. Significantly better than It's Alright. At least they're doing their own songs again. Now, we follow it up with the first dance classic of the album, probably. And that's Fascinating Rhythm by Bass-O-Matic, which I'm definitely going to stick on. Really like this song. It's actually William Orbit. And I think this might have been his first pop hit. William Orbit had been around throughout the 80s, doing very kind of experimental electronic stuff. And here he's on a pop dance thing, almost a bit reggae-y, certainly dubby, very bassy. I don't know how popular it is with the kind of general public, but it's certainly a dance music anthem, really. They're still using that Eric B breakbeat, which has been used on loads and loads of stuff, even Milli Vanilli. There's William Orbit in the video with loads and loads of equipment. Now, what was the singer's name? Musgrave or something? Sharon Musgrave? Let me find it out. Fascinating Rhythm. Yeah, big top 10 hit and very influential. It's kind of post-house, getting a bit more into breaks, a bit dubby. You can almost hear the roots of stuff like Left Field in this. Oh, it's a song by George Gershwin. I'm sure it's not that one, is it? They've obviously used that name. I never knew that. And they're from Sheffield. It's always good. Yeah, project of William Orbit, Sharon Musgrave, and rapper MC Inner One Step. So there we go. That's Fascinating Rhythm. Great stuff. Missing You, Soul to Soul, featuring Kim Mazel. Not one of their classics. They were sort of tailing off a bit now. They'd had their big moment with Back to Life. And they were still going, but nothing was really as impressive as that now. Talking of Back to Life, those beats make another appearance on Tom's Diner, which is DNA featuring Suzanne Vega. Basically, the Suzanne Vega, interesting tidbit about this one, it was an a cappella song, Tom's Diner. That song was used in the invention of the MP3, and they used Tom's Diner as the kind of default song when they were creating the MP3 compression, and they thought if they can get a song like Tom's Diner still sounding good, then basically MP3 will work for anything. The actual DNA remix is not bad. It's kind of quite predictable in a way. Lots of stuff like this is heard being remixed, but it's kind of dark and atmospheric. So it's pretty good. I still play it. Another remix, Englishman in New York by Sting of all people. Sting, down the rave up. It's not really very ravey. It's still, because this song's quite a jazzy song anyway, and it's kind of more or less kept that original theme. They've not kind of blundered in with big heavy beats. In fact, it was Ben Liebrand who did the remix, who'd previously done The Eve of a War. So the beats are kind of fairly in keeping with the original. There's a big kind of heavy hip-hop beat section in the middle, but that was in the original anyway. And another remix of an old song, very unlikely songs here to get remixed. It's Close to Me by The Cure, which was part of their Mixed Up album. And it's actually a pretty successful mix. It's pretty controversial, because Close to Me is so undancey. It's got this sort of popping hand clap beat. That's the one that had the video of them falling off a cliff in a wardrobe, if you remember it. The remix kind of half speeds it, and it's a bit kind of plasticky, the beat. A bit sort of, I don't know, just sort of shoved on. But it's got some nice kind of jazzy horns towards the end. So, you know, a bit of a mixed bag, but on balance, I'd say it's more good than bad. Now we've got one that I'm going to play. It's another cover. Wow, that's interesting. It got the right artist, but the wrong song. So can you tell what that is? This is a song that was written by Cole Porter, and this was part of a project. Let me just get my details right here, because I want to get this right. But it's basically a Red Hot and Blue, and it was a compilation of Cole Porter songs that were done by up-to-date artists in very different styles, and it was a fundraiser for AIDS charities and stuff. And this song, this was number one on it. It's Nene Cherry, I Got You Under My Skin. Just having a look through the lineup here, you had the Neville Brothers, Sinead O'Connor, Fine Young Cannibals, Deborah Harry, wow, David Byrne, Tom Waits. What a lineup! Annie Lennox, U2, KD Lang, Thompson Twins Still, Erasure, Jungle Brothers, Jimmy Somerville, Aztec Camera. I might have to get this album, actually, because with a load of artists like that, you can sure it's going to be amazing. This doesn't really sound very much like Cole Porter, does it? It only vaguely really resembles his version. And Frankie Valli, the Four Seasons, also did a version, which was way more easy listening. So Nena's done a really, really good version of this, actually. Really reinvented it. This is why I like Nene Cherry. Real talented lady. She just, everything she did, she gave this new aesthetic to, and very sort of stark but poppy in a good way. Really one of the best artists of the late 80s, early 90s, I think. Listening to these, anyway. Okay, we follow it up with Little Brother by Blue Pearl. Youth was the producer. The singer was called Durga, I think, or Durka. Their most famous song was Naked in the Rain, which is a classic. Little Brother's not quite as good. It's okay. It's a bit more soul, a bit less house. Pretty good. Not very remembered now. Step Back in Time by Kylie next. Kylie had sort of really come into her own in 1990. She was still with Stock Aitken and Waterman, but she'd kind of, I think she was going out with Michael Hutchins in Excess, and she'd sort of sexed herself up a bit. And Better the Devil You Know was a really good single, her best yet. Step Back in Time was pretty good, actually. I haven't heard it for a long time. I'm going to play it now because it might really sound dated. I remember at the time, because I've got a bit of a 70s thing. I like 70s disco, funk and soul. This was a sort of tribute to that, with lyrics like "Remember the old days, remember the OJs." Sounding, it's those cheesy simp strings, really. I mean, she's very, she's great in the video. I'm not complaining about that. It's the production. No, why didn't they do it more 70s? It's wasted opportunity, I think. This is followed by Kim Appleby and Don't Worry. Very sadly, Mel had died. Kim was back on her own now with a kind of upbeat tune. Pretty good song, actually, and in the circumstances, a lot of goodwill towards it. It's a good song. I don't think it's very played anymore, but it was a good hit for the time. Right, brace yourselves for impact. I'm loading it up now, and then I'm going to leave the room. I actively want to inflict pain on you people, because I'm a sadist, and I'm just lining up my weapon. Before we get to it, Mega Mix by Technotronic. A mega mix of 4 songs that all sound the same anyway, but they're all good. You certainly dance to it. It's a DJ's best friend, a song like that. You just shove it on, nip to the toilet, then come back again. Poor DJs. God, who's actually going to be DJing at the moment? I know someone who does kids' parties, and he's had all these cancellations. It's really, it's really sad. Right, okay. Anyway, so we're talking Technotronic Mega Mix. Now, everyone, I am warning you what I'm about to play you. This might actually irrevocably damage your ears. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can you hear that? Okay, it's Bombalurina featuring Timmy Mallet and Itsy Bitsy Teenie Weenie Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. Another number 1. There's a part of me, a really twisted part of me that kind of likes this and would be dancing around goofily on the dance floor to it. Oh dear, it's so bad, knowingly so. There is a part of me that would like to dance around to it. There's another part of me that knows better. It's got all the cliches from dance music from the last couple of years. It's got a song from the 60s by Brian Hyland with some incredibly dodgy lyrics. Basically about a girl whose bikini broke or something, and she's naked and everyone's laughing at her. And the singer seems to be deriving great leisure from that. Great pleasure from this girl's miscomfort. It's a bit dodgy, really. I don't think that was really a concern in the video. Who bought this? Hands up, I bought it. I don't know why. God knows what I was thinking. Da, 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 da. Right, let's get this one off then. Where Are You, Baby? It's Betty Boo. And she's first appeared on, I think it was the Beatmasters, I Can't Dance. Then she's had a big hit with Betty Boo, which was based on Reparata and the Delrons, the captain of the ship, which is a great song. And then here she is again with Where Are You, Baby? Yeah, Betty Boo was really good, actually. Again, probably not really played a lot now. You'd have to go and listen to it. But I think you'll find it's pretty good. Sonically, we're talking Fatboy Slim, Big Beat style now. He's opened the floodgates for this sort of stuff, and a lot of people picking up on it. An amalgam of kind of 60s, 70s, with a kind of 90s rap twist. It's pretty decent still. She's kind of a bit annoying in her rap style, but she's sexy. So yeah, that's this. Another classic coming up, Dirty Cash. And this was by The Adventures of Stevie V. Let's stick this one on. This is one of my favourite dance songs. I think he might have had 2 or 3 songs, but nothing anywhere near as good as Dirty Cash. What would you call it? It's kind of house again, post-house, but it's quite jazzy as well, quite tribal. Great lyrics, really good lyrics, brilliant lyrics. Pretty much do what they say in the tin. Dirty Cash, money talks, the dark side of capitalism, inequality and stuff. There's a kind of really good rap bit as well in the middle. This is, excuse my language, but fucking brilliant song. Really good song. Really feeling it. Okay. Follow this classic up, possibly the best on the album yet. Another one people are divided on. Have You Seen Her by MC Hammer. Another guilty pleasure, actually. I was having a debate with one of my best friends who loves You Can't Touch This, but draws the line at Have You Seen Her? And I'm the other way round. I think You Can't Touch This was kind of a bit, just a rip-off, really. Have You Seen Her? All right, it's another rip-off. It's an old Lowlight song, and he's kind of repurposed the lyrics. Instead of being about a girl that he's, dumped, or she's dumped him, an old lover. It's about his future lover. Have you seen it yet? The girl I'm about to meet. It's kind of very cheesy and Las Vegas in a way. It's not really hip hop. I think it's really not hip hop at all. Although he kind of raps, it's more speaking, it's more spoken word. But the thing is, it's a great song, and the original was a great song. It's one of my favourite soul songs, and he's not totally ruined it. He's kept a bit of emotion in there. I'll give him a pass on it. Finally, To Love Somebody, yet another cover. I can't believe how many covers there are on this album. It must be the most cover-friendly to date. And it's Jimmy Somerville, who's not averse to doing covers, but this is the first time he's gone off in a kind of reggae style, and it actually works really, really well. It's something different. And yeah, it reminds me, this one and Robert Palmer and UB40, I'll Be With You Tonight, they kind of go together. I would have put them together on the album. So here we go then, now 18. It's mainly retro more than up to date, but the few up to date ones it's got on there are really, really good, and they kind of make up for it. There's a lot of covers, remixes, even just plain re-releases. So in terms of the classics here, a lot of them were classics before they even made this album. The Joker, for example. It Must Have Been Love, that's a classic that featured on this album. First, I think, Nothing Compares to You, that was a cover by Sinead, but her version being the classic. Unchained Melody, Righteous Brothers, that was a classic way before it made here. Suicide Blonde, that was a classic that debuted on this album. It's My Life, an old song, but it kind of debuted on a now here. Talk Talk. There She Goes, another indie classic. Now going into the dancey side, you see they're all covers really. Tom's Diner, Close to Me. I've Got You Under My Skin's brilliant, but it's not really well remembered. So the first actual and the only real dance classic to debut on this, I think, was Fascinating Rhythm and Dirty Cash. Yeah, those two. So all in all, it's some really good strong songs on here. It's very listenable. Just bear in mind that you'll be playing Spot the Song for most of it. Also, the other thing about this one is it's first now that didn't feature the up to now traditional logo with the three balls, the three dots for the now. So it's the first time they've stripped away with that, which is progress, I guess. But yeah, it's a right little romp now 18. I think you'll enjoy it. Let me know what you think. Thank you very much indeed.